Hey guys, what's up? So I'm gonna show you my Invoke deck that I've been playing and on Master Duels here. Um, and it's been pretty good. It's got me to Diamond last season and just before the season ended, and I wasn't really playing too much, but I think my win rate for the deck has been pretty good. So kind of gonna show it off today and discuss some of the cards and strategies and how to use certain things and um, yeah, it looks kind of a mess, but basically it's just good cards dot deck, and so you have several different engines in the deck, and most of the engines are just one card engines. And so it kind of just plays itself. So depending on what cards you draw, um, and that's how you're gonna pilot the deck in one way or another. And while they do have some conflicting cards and conflicting strategies and stuff like that, overall it's been pretty good. And I'll kind of talk about some things to look out for, um, and kind of um, how to pilot the deck effectively so that you don't kind of cook yourself when playing this thing. So, anyways, let's just start off. So you got your basic hand traps, your six, your Maxis, Ash Blossom, kind of a must since Ash Blossom hits other Maxis, and it's just an overall good card. And Maxi you kind of just need in this game, otherwise, you're gonna lose most of the time if you don't have Maxi. Um, Now we got this chick, the Water Enchantress. Now I never really summoned her. I've summoned her a few times when I want to just get a body on board and send her to the grave for Armides here. But yeah, she basically gets you searches for your rights here, which gets you your token, which gets you to the rest of your deck. But yeah, she's great because she kind of replaces herself, so you can use her as discard fodder, stuff like that, and she kind of just replaces herself with another card. So you can like uh, use super poly, you can use droplets, stuff like that, discard her, or you can, if you have a macabre on the board, you can discard her and then negate a monster effect, and then next turn you banish her, grab a rights from your graveyard or from your deck, and then yeah, you have another card in your hand to discard for macabre. So that's the idea. This engine is just a value engine there. And I think it requires a total of 7 cards. So it's kind of a big engine, but not the biggest. So 7 cards is not the worst to commit here. Next off, you got the Celestian stuff for the Destiny hero. You got the Alistair Invoker here, kind of like your other um, engine that you can play. It's a 1 card engine. As long as you have something in the graveyard or your opponent has something in the graveyard, this card will always kind of replace itself and get you a boss monster out. So yeah. Uh, Ecclesia, also another 1 card engine, and it's our one of our ways to get a light source and one of the ways to put a body on the board for to try to fuse into Anaconda. If not, sometimes you draw her and not the Alistair, and you can use her as her own engine. Um, but yeah, basically it's I still think the Dogmatica engine is kind of useful in this particular build. You have Dasher, just your regular old Dasher here, nothing too crazy for DPE. You got the Griffin Rider, just another body, negation. Um, you have your Fleur here, 2 of them. I like 2. They've been working pretty well. Is 2 copies, 2 copies. And then you have your only out to back roll. Sometimes you need it. Sometimes you need to get rid of like a Mystic Mine or something like that. This is your only out. It's probably the best out to back roll, so I play it. Monster Reborn for extender. Maybe you want to bring back a Macabre, or you bring back DPE if they somehow get rid of it. Just another card here, but you don't have to play it. I like Monster Reborn. I mainly brought back like other people's bear nest, stuff like that, like dumb stuff like that. Like I'll bring that back from their graveyard just to push for damage or push for negation, stuff like that. Terraforming for the meltdowns, definitely. Two invocation, any more than that, it's kind of dead. So just two. Definitely Destiny Fusion here, or Fusion Destiny. Great card. You can definitely activate this card on its own. Um, and yeah, there's nothing really wrong with just activating on its own. It's that great of a card. Brings you one of the best monsters in the game, at least on Master Duels here. But yeah. The Deer Servant, generally this card is a +3, or sorry, +2. So what you do is you dump Titaniclad, you'll fetch Ecclesia, assuming that you've done all your special summons and everything for the turn, or from your extra deck, then you can special summon her from your hand. Once you summon her, she searches for. Generally, you gotta search for punishment. So that's 3 cards right there. So um, the deer searches for this. This searches for that. For punishment, and at the end of the turn, Satanic Clad's gonna search for a monster, and then you want to search for a fleur. So that way you have an interruption, and you have basically 2 interruption. You have a card that destroys other cards, and you have a card that negates. And you generally want to dump Entis with the punishment for a 2-for-1 value. So yeah, that's how you kind of want to play the Dogmatica engine, and they act as your light source for the Macabres and stuff like that. So yeah, good card there. Triple Tactic Talents, great draw card. I usually use it to draw 2 cards, but sometimes you can steal some stuff on your opponent's board, use their ability, and then link away, or uh, you want to get rid of something in your opponent's hand just because maybe you're afraid of something, like a Nibiru or something maybe like that. But yeah, just a flexible card. I think 2 is good. I think 3 might get cloggy, but yeah. 2 rights because you need to play 2. Basically, try to max out on those. On these would be 3 ofs if they weren't semi, but yeah. Dracoback Rider, great card. Well, not really great card. It's kind of a dead card, but it's great in a sense that gets you a lot of value. You know, your 1 rights becomes like a +4 because you get the token, and then you get this thing from your deck, then you summon something, get this thing, add it to your hand, and then you'll ditch this thing, activate this, ditch this thing, grab a Griffin Rider. So you net so many cards because of that kind of that loop, and it's pretty degenerate. So, but you only need to play 1 copy of these cards because they're kind of searchable. So don't want to play too many. Yeah, Meltdown, 1 Faithful Adventure. You only want to play 1 Faithful because you want to be getting this card off of the rights. You don't want to be hard playing this, but there are times where you'll draw it and you'll draw also rights with it, which kind of sucks. But it's a once per turn card, and so I think 1 copy is fine. There's a lot of 1-ofs in this deck, like a lot of 1-ofs that you don't want to draw. You obviously don't want to draw Celeste, you don't want to draw Dasher, you don't want to draw Dracoback or Faithful. Those are like the main 4 cards you want to avoid drawing, but everything else in the deck is fine. But yeah, next off, Super Poly. It's kind of a must-have, especially in the fusion deck like this. You can fuse away your opponent's stuff. You can go into the generic fusion Super Poly targets. Just overall great card. Your opponent can't really play around this thing, which is the nice part. But yeah, it's definitely very strong, and you can use this in conjunction with Predator Plant to kind of get rid of something, because you can make something a dark and then activate Predator Plant and then send Super Poly, and then you can fuse Predator Plant and whatever dark thing that you targeted. But yeah, just overall, one of the best removal spells in our deck. I would play 3 if I could, but we got 2 here. Next off, Call by the Graves, just to get rid of hand traps, get rid of graveyard stuff, DD Crow. Overall, just a very flexible card, very good card. Definitely should be limited and not just semi, but yeah. And then next off, you got your Droplets. Droplets is great for board breaking, for discarding certain things, stuff like that, for running over things. Yeah, overall, Droplets very good card. And finally, Vanity's Emptiness, namely just because if we can flip this with Macabre, we just win. It's the dumb card. Now you can play Imperial Order or something, but I didn't want to cuck myself with Imperial Order, so I think I prefer the Vanity, so I can turn this off when I need to, stuff like that. But yeah, overall, one of the strongest card in the game there. Next off for your um, extra deck, nothing's really changed for me, even though I removed some stuff. Basically, everything's still kind of like normal. You can actually bring him out a lot now, especially if you have Griffin Rider in your graveyard. You can actually summon this guy off of the invocation, and he's pretty handy sometimes, and um, kind of a hard card for your opponent to deal with if they're trying to link and you just flip their monster face down. They can't link anymore. So yeah, Raijin, great disruption, free disruption, free Book of Moon every turn. Other than that, that's um, kind of the overview of the deck. Now, let me talk about how to kind of play the deck, and maybe I'll go through some replays and show you guys how I played it, and how I maybe won some matches. So, yeah, basically 4 engines in the deck. You got your Adventure package, you got your Invoke, you got your Dogmatica, and then you got your Destiny engine. Now, the Destiny engine by itself does its own thing. It almost doesn't matter how you go about it. Now, obviously, if you play her, you activate her effect, it shuts you off from your extra deck, so just be careful if you do use her effect. Most of the time, you don't, or most of the time, if you do, she's going to be your last card that you play. But yeah, Ecclesia's still good with the Fleur, but yeah, the Destiny engine, kind of its own thing. Then I mentioned the Invoker engine. So these two cards, when they normal summon, they do stuff. So that kind of conflicts with the right, because the right requires that you don't activate um, any normal monster effects, otherwise you can't use it. So that's the one bad thing. But you can kind of circumvent that, because Ecclesia can special summon herself, and then you can use her effect under the rights. So she kind of works around that if you really needed to do that. But the Invoker Alistair does not work with this card. However, the idea is to draw one or the other. You generally either draw one right and you'll go do your thing with the Brave engine or the Adventure engine. If you don't draw this, if you draw Alistair, you go with the Alistair engine. So they're basically kind of backups. So you hopefully draw one or the other. Sometimes you do draw both, but you just at that point you kind of have to recognize which one you rather play first. And it's kind of situation dependent. So, but overall, just because these cards they net so many other cards, you can generally just outvalue your opponent, and yeah. So if you're not aware of how to play the rights engine, generally you want to use Enchantress. You can banish her from the hand or the graveyard, search this card, activate this card, get your token, set this card or play this card directly from your deck, and then kind of go from there. And the end result is you usually have a token that's equipped with Draco back, and you usually have this guy on the board, either as negation or as another body on the board you can use to link away. But most of the time, that's gonna be your standard setup, and yeah, the deck just kind of works. The main idea of the deck is still to try to get out a DPE as fast as you can. Generally, you go Alistair into Ecclesia, link the two, get your Predator Plant out, get your Macabre out, and then activate Vert, and then make your Destroyer there. So that's generally the idea. But you can also make other negation boards by having like something, the Griffin Rider out there with the Adventure token. Have a bunch of cards in your hand. But yeah, you have a lot of answers, and this deck definitely wants to go first. Even though we're not playing that many traps, we were able to generally kind of set up our board with like Macabre, and then you have DPE, or you have the the Griffin Rider in DP, you just have a couple of different routes to go, and you kind of just pick the best one at that point and go from there. But yeah, enough about the deck. Let me see if we got any decent replays recently. I can kind of show you how the deck works. This is a relatively recent. Let's check this one out real quick. I don't quite remember which replays I saved. Like I remember saving some and deleting some. Hopefully this is the deck. Let's see. Okay, so this is the deck. So as you can see, I'm going first. I draw my card, or I don't draw my card, but I have nothing else. Just go for this kind of standard play here. You know, get out the Archimedes. Activate that. I probably should have activated that first. Yeah, I was doing that just kind of thin out my deck, honestly. Maybe I should have just kept the, kept her in hand, but I don't know. Or discard something else, maybe. At this point, I was just kind of going for advantage there. I think I equipped this thing because of the secondary effect with the Faithful, so they couldn't run it over. Yeah, that's the idea. I think it's Loot and Light. I think I just let everything resolve, but don't quite remember what happens here. I probably should interrupt that at one point, but yeah, I forget she does that, so kind of sucks. I should have popped the other Lunanite. I didn't, so it goes from there, but kind of managed to interrupt that a little bit because I played the punishment because I knew I wasn't going to be able to play Alistair next turn anyways, so you know, might as well. I probably yeah, since I special summoned her, I get my token out. The Griffin Rider, discard that because there's nothing else to do. And I just play. I don't know why I played it in attack mode, honestly. Just negate this. I think I wanted to negate that, and then I have. Unfortunately, I forgot that I don't have an extra deck monster. There's no extra deck monster on the board, so I can't really use Fleur that well. Yeah, I forgot it even does that. Pretty crazy though, but Loon Knights can do all this. Yeah, now I use the Knight here. My opponent doesn't realize that because it's negated, it's not gonna do everything. But he does deal quite a bit of damage to me. Yeah, go for the greed here. And I think I try to super poly it. But me being an idiot, accidentally used the Ecclesia, and so that was just being dumb there. I think the idea here was to super poly in a way. I'm not too sure what my plan was here. Oh, yeah, I think I wanted to do that. That's why I killed my own Predaplant. And, I think, yeah, I think that's basically it. The game could have ended a lot earlier. I think I just messed up a lot when I was playing this particular game. But yeah, you can kind of see some of the choices I made weren't the best, but you kind of have to pick between using the right or summoning out you know, Alistair. I think this is another game. I don't remember what happens to this one, but let's see. So yeah, you kind of see you get a bunch of one card engine, you know. Oh, I think this one was the one where he goes full combo and I just didn't do anything. He plays Prank Kids, Thunder Dragons, which is a very, very mean deck. But yeah, I have 0 hand traps, so couldn't do anything. I really hate playing against Prank Kids. I just don't know what they do half the time. And it's very hard to keep track of them, what effects they're using, what they're going into. Yeah, he's using every single effect. Gets out a Colossus, so that's very nice. Yeah, pretty crazy, crazy board. And he gets out DP also, man. Look at that. So I think here I decided to just go ahead and super poly him, honestly. I don't quite remember what I did here. Yeah, super poly, I pitched that because I didn't think that was going to be useful. Yeah, the Predaplant just to see what he's going to do. He decides to pop it. He's like, okay, sure. Yeah, I think I just negate that. Yeah, I just go ahead and draw my 2 cards, draw another Destiny Fusion, great, perfect. Maybe I should have Destiny Fusion first, but I wanted to see what I can draw first. Sometimes I think I misplayed because I do that, but then now I don't have any extra okay, this one was questionable. I wasn't too sure if I should have done that. Get rid of the Dasher. I wanted to get rid of the Dasher to not let him draw cards off the Celeste. I think that was the main idea. But he could just Celeste and do this and still get the draws. So I think I messed up on that portion. But here I kind of just try to stun him from being able to do anything. But he keeps going, so pretty crazy though. I probably should have hit this thing, the Thunder Dark, over it. But I guess he ran out of steam, which didn't have anything else to do, which was kind of unfortunate for him. Here, I think I just summon her just to get the body on the board. That I'll maybe use her later. But yeah, see, it's just a one-card engine, and it's really like annoying one-card engines. Like you have her as one card engine, you have that card as one card engine, you have Destiny Fusion as a one card engine. You know, discard the card I didn't need anymore, and I think here I just try to push for the game. Just balance and just attack, essentially. At that point, it didn't matter what he tried to search, unless he had some sort of negation. Then he does, which I end up using that to stop the Nibiru. I don't know if that saves him or not. I don't think it does, because I end up just playing, oh yeah, the knight here and then just drawing more cards. I think I just win from here. Yeah, that would have been perfect lethal even without the Archimedes, but yeah, as you can kind of see, I was able to break his board, stop him from doing anything else really, and just still have a huge board with a bunch of one-card stuff. So yeah, that's the idea behind the deck, is to draw one or the other engine, and then just kind of go off from there. And yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's the best deck, but it definitely is just a strong deck, just because you have so many different routes to go. But you do have a lot of conflicting cards, so it does take a bit of knowing how to sequence your cards. You know, sometimes you sequence it incorrectly, which I've done. I've sequenced this deck quite incorrectly a few times, and that has cost me games. Like if you play Ecclesia and then you activate your effect, now you're locked out of your extra deck. Or you summon Alistair, you use his effect, now you can't play the rights anymore. You know, stuff like that. You just have to pay attention, and you make sure you know what effects to use first, and then what effects to resolve after. Like obviously, you want to resolve all your your good special summoning effects, and then play Destiny Fusion or play the Predator Plant. At the very end. Most of the time, you want to get at least a Macabre out, because you're gonna be special summoning a lot, and your biggest weakness is gonna be Nibiru. Most of the time, you're able to get Macabre out on the 5th summon, and so I haven't really lost Nibiru, but I have had to try to deal with, like, Max C, that being the annoying card, or like some other form of interruption. But majority of the time, you should be able to get out Macabre, and then kind of get out DPE. Now there are decks that are playing, Kaijus. There's nothing you can really do against Kaijus. You kind of hope that the Kaiju kind of break and they don't really do anything. They just sack the Kaiju off, But if they're a deck that's like sacking your monsters off, summoning out the Kaiju, and then bouncing the Kaijus back, that's something you can't deal with, because Kaijus you can't be negated or stopped really, unless you flip like Vanity's Emptiness or something like that. That would kind of stop them. But yeah, for the most part, those are your main weaknesses. Or if your opponent goes first and they set up like an unbreakable board, and you don't draw your outs, you don't draw like super poly, you don't really draw any form of interaction or interruption, then that's where this deck is gonna struggle. But you generally go first, and you have a fairly strong board. I want to say you can most of the time get out like 1 or 2 negations. Sometimes you get a Macabre, or you get out Griffin Rider with a DPE, some interruption in the back row or in your hand. Just different ways to go about playing the game, and different ways to kind of beat your opponent that way. Now you can play more traps. I'm or cut a couple cards. I find it kind of hard to cut any cards. Plus, I don't mind the 42 cards. Idea here is the 42 cards slightly decrease your chances of seeing, like a dasher in your hand or a celestial or you know faithful. Like it's okay to play a little bit more than 40 cards because those are the cards you don't want to see. But you're gonna end up seeing your Alistair anyways. You have like 7 ways to search for your Alistair. You're probably gonna be able to get Alistair and something out to be able to get Predator Plant out to be able to be able to Destiny Fusion consistently, or you draw your 1 card engine like Enchantress or your rights here, and then you just kind of go off from there. So you have plenty of like 1 card draws that will get you started, um, and then end up with a decent board and some interaction. Going second, a little bit harder to break certain boards, but as you can kind of see, you can break boards. You can play through certain things. The hardest thing to play through is fucking whatchamacallit, the Calamity. Like I played against, I think recently I played against Virtual Worlds, and holy crap, I had to fight against two True Kings, and that was just super annoying. Like, or they were able to bring back one True King, shuffle it back, and bring out another one. It was just a mess. Like I did end up losing that game because I misplayed. I forgot that even though I think he had like True King and a freaking Zeus out on the board and everything, and I think I could have beaten it if I played correctly, but I messed up my play that time. So, but yeah, like you can play through certain things, definitely, but your deck is mainly made to go first, and all these cards are kind of supporting you going first. Um, Call by the Graves to protect you a little bit, Triple Tactics to kind of net you some advantage or to protect you a little bit, and then basically your only trapped cards are really just the Super Poly, the Forbidden Droplets, and stuff like that. Like the droplets are there to help you break boards. Same thing with the Super Poly. So if you end up going second, these cards are great going first or second. Going first, you set it, you fuse away your opponent's stuff. Going second, you use them to break your board. So good going first and second card. The most dead card going first is obviously Harpies, but sometimes you just pitch it to do something else. But yeah, Harpies is probably not the greatest card. Sometimes Triple Tactics can be dead if your opponent's not really activating any effects on your turn. But if they're not activating effects on your turn, yeah, you should be fine, right? You should definitely be able to kind of go off and maybe pitch the tactic talents to Macabre or Super Poly or Forbidden Droplets. So you have like discard outlets for your dead cards, which is also nice in this particular deck because there are gonna be times where there are gonna be some dead cards. You'll like summon out Alistair and you won't be able to use rights, or you won't be able to use the Priestess or something like that. Just pitch the Priestess for Super Poly or Droplet, and then use the Priestess in your graveyard, grab another rights, so you kind of break even that way. And that's the entire idea of the deck, is to kind of go first, break even, maybe net some cards, have a lot of one card engines, and yeah, kind of go from there. You have a lot of interruption, you have a lot of negation, through Macabre, through Called by the Graves, Droplets, Griffin here, even Ecclesia, plus the Fleur, that's interruption on the board. So yeah, you have plenty of ways, plenty of hand traps. You could play something like an Nibiru in the deck if you wanted to. Maybe play a couple more traps, Imperial Order, maybe some Solemns. I found that these are only 2 traps I really needed, and the only 2 traps I really like. Everything else is kind of just a quick play. But yeah, I think that's really it. Extra deck wise, I've used basically every single card in the extra deck. So I wish the extra deck was bigger. I wish I had more space, but I've basically used everything. The cross sheep here, you probably won't use as much, but there are times where I'll like cross sheep, summon Macabre, and then bring back Ecclesia, net another card. So you net 2 cards off the cross sheep. Stuff like that. Small interaction like that can net you some advantage there. Or you super poly during your opponent's turn. If you have a cross sheep, you activate cross sheep, bring back, I don't know, anything, a body on board or something like that. Probably not the greatest card, but I've used Starring Venom. I've used this, and I've used that for super poly targets. Really good. One time I baited my opponent. I super poly into this thing, activated its effect, and he tried to negate and destroy this, and this thing just nuked his entire board. So, just small things like that. Just make sure you know all the card effects in your in this particular deck, and it's very important to remember the restrictions and what restrictions you've placed on yourself that turn. So yeah. Other than that, hope you guys enjoy it. Kind of went on a little bit, but yeah, deck's been pretty cool. Kind of expensive to make, as you can kind of see. The actual deck is actually the cheapest part of the deck. Like you only need like 2 ultra cards. Everything else is dirt cheap, but the main deck can get very expensive, as you can kind of see. I think there's like what's 4. Oh, that's a total of like what 8 here. 11 or 8 plus this 13, 14, 19, 26, 27, about like 27 ultra rares. So that's a lot. Yeah, so that's a lot of ultra rares. I think a total of like 29 or 30 ultra rare cards is required for the deck. But other than that, um, you can take out one engine, replace it with something else, or replace it with more hand traps or something like that. But I definitely like this. I haven't seen anyone try this type of deck. I've seen like Water Trenches and like the Destiny Fusion engine all the time. Like those are the two like butt buddies. This card plus that. Those are butt buddies. But I haven't seen it mixed with like Dogmatica and Invoked too much, but they work, I guess. Just tricky, but they got powerful effects and 1 card engines. So, anyways, I think I rambled on long enough. Hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you guys next time.